about this.
Yeah,
we're recording.
Yeah. Seems too pragmatic.
That'll be more of a me interviewing you.
It would. Hey, Mike.
Hi, we're here with Mike Beach, Blind Consultant Service.
Nice NPR voice. That was solid. You took all the mid out of your voice. that's how you do it for NPR. I was like, today we'll be discussing. It's all just S's, T sounds, and bass. That's all you get in the NPR voice.
That's all you need.
Welcome to the Camo and Hooks podcast. This is Mike.
And this is Luke.
And Luke got guided.
I got guided. Yeah, we talked about, in a previous podcast about to guide or not to, or to be guided or not to be guided,
right,
and all that sort of stuff. And, we discussed the benefits of it. Mainly that you get to learn some spots and you get to learn from somebody who does it a lot. So
right.
We went on a kind of a multi-family trip down to the coast. And all the dads got together and said, let's go on a guided fishing trip. Let's go catch some fish. So we booked a guide through an online site and met him out there. And it turned out to be a really awesome trip. And kind of a pleasant surprise was that the guy we just randomly chose to book us had this particular boat. It's a 23-foot center console boat. But the way his motor's set up and the way the boat's set up, it can run in a foot of water, which is pretty cool. Not only can it run, and everybody's, it can run in a foot of water. Not only can it run in a foot of water, it can stop and start in a foot of water. So what we learned there was that anybody can kind of cruise over 1 foot of water. When you stop, though, the boat settles down. Mm-hmm. Your motor kind of is going to sit down in the gunk, and then getting out of there becomes the challenge.
So how many guys did you have on that trip? How many guys?
There was the guide, and then there were 4 of us on the boat together.
23-foot boat, plenty of room for y'all.
Lots of room. So he ran us out into this spot that he knew about, and we got set up, and we were just throwing shrimp. I thought we'd be throwing live bait or something. That's been my experience previously. This guy was like, no need. He just had store-bought shrimp. And I guess him and some guys he guides with all get a delivery from like Cisco of cases of frozen shrimp.
That's smart.
And that's it. So we're just tying shrimp onto these, or hooking shrimp onto these circle hooks with a solid, had to be ounce and a half, maybe 2 ounce weights, which were pretty heavy on a spinning rod. And you could chuck these things a quarter mile with the cast, which was pretty cool.
That alone I find very fascinating.
Yeah.
That sounds fun in and of itself, even if you don't.
Especially if I fish a lot of creeks and ponds, and I'm throwing it out 50, 60 feet, whatever. Well, you get on these things with these huge weights and these inshore spinning rods. They're meant to cast forever because they can see, you're in a foot of water. The fish can see you, so you need to be far away. So it felt like we were chucking these things 125 yards.
Now the primary goal is redfish out there, right?
That is, it depends on the time of year, the spot you're fishing, all that kind of stuff. I thought we were going for redfish. What we ended up fishing for was black drum. They're both drum fish, but the redfish is kind of more prestigious.
Yeah, but they're both good. They're both good eating.
They're both delicious. So we ended up fishing for drum. We happened on a school of drum. What was really cool about this guy is that he taught us how to fish for these fish. I've been on guided trips before where the dude will bait your hook, chuck the rod. Uh-huh. By the time he hands you the rod, there's a fish on it. So you're basically catching. You're not even fishing.
And you're right. And you're not learning.
Right.
Which is 100% the point. What I want my money doing.
We've talked about this so many times, but that's what some people want. Hand me the rod, let me reel in a fish.
You know what's funny?
Put me in a stand, point my gun, tell me when to shoot at that deer.
And here's the crazy thing, just as an aside. We talk about those kind of people. I know they exist. I've heard people that do guided fishing and hunting tell me they exist. I've never met one in my life. Maybe
because they don't
have.
run in the circles we run.
Probably they don't. Maybe I have, but we just don't.
We
talk
don't
about
run
it.
in those social circles. Mike.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, those the social circles start with a $sign instead of an S.
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
could totally be it.
And the C is even a cent sign. That's how
smart.
That's how high it is.
Yeah, I don't know anybody like that. And it maybe, but again, maybe I do. It's just not.
Well, and
we don't
also
talk on it.
we're born and raised and live in Central Texas.
That's true.
So there's not a lot of those folks around here.
That's true.
Them city folk from up north of the Mason-Dixon line, they come down here and that's how they want it done, right? So this guy, he was like, I want to show you guys how to do this. And we're like, that's awesome because we want to learn how to do it. One guy on our boat had more experience than all of us. His dad actually has a boat down in Galveston, so he'd been out a bunch. I was probably the second most experienced, and the other two guys were,
Was this any of our normal cast of characters out there? Anybody we've talked about on here before?
No.
Oh, no Daniel?
No Daniel. No Magical Greg.
No Magic Greg.
No. It was some other buddies of mine, and but we were all excited to learn because we all want to get better at this. They're kind of in the same boat. Where they want to start learning how to do this stuff so they can teach their sons how to do it and stuff.
Great reason.
Which is great. So this guy showed us some cool stuff. He showed us how to bait the hook, and then he wasn't baiting hooks for anybody anymore. It was bait your own hook.
Smart.
Which is great.
Work smart, not hard, buddy.
Exactly. And then he taught us kind of a cool way to hold the line. You chuck it out there and then put the rod in a rod holder and then pull the line down with one finger and just hold the line. Don't hold the rod. Because if you're standing there in a boat that's moving and holding the rod, you're going to think you got a fish every 2 seconds. But if the boat's holding the rod, and he kept calling the rods Rodney. He said, let Rodney do the work. He said, because the way we were set up, the kind of hooks we were using as far as we were chucking it, if the fish took the bait and that rod is totally upright, as soon as that rod bends, that tension will set the hook for you. You don't have to set the hook.
That's cool.
Which is pretty neat. So you're holding the line, and what's going to happen is when the fish takes the line, it's just going to pop that line off your finger. And you're like, oh, that's a fish. That's definitely a fish. That can't be anything else.
It's not a choppy wave or anything.
Exactly. So that was pretty neat. And then, when you throw that bait out there, there's a bunch of little fish, little perch, little chirpy perch or whatever that are out there that want that bait as well. And so he taught us the difference between when you've got a bite and when it's just perch eating your bait. If you feel like a rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat, like a little machine gun, that's perch. So you need to yank that bait up and move it, or they're going to eat it all, and you're going to reel in an empty hook. And we're like, well, what if it's like a fish, though? How do I know the difference? He said, you'll know the difference. And then the fish started coming, and we knew the difference.
Something with 8 or 9 pounds of muscle on it pulls it. All of a sudden, you're, oh, yeah.
Exactly. Tries to yank it out of your hand.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. The other thing he taught us about was looking for what he called nervous water. It's really hard to see at first. It's hard to tell what he meant by that. But what he meant was if you look out at the water and all the water is moving in the same direction, right? Because of the wind and the current and all that kind of stuff. There's little waves, and you can see those little waves, and they're all running the same direction. But if you look out there and you see a spot where the water is not moving the same direction, there's a bunch of fish underneath there. They're stirring up the water. They're breaking up that pattern and that current. And so it was really cool when we got to where we're like, hey, there's some right there. You chuck your bait in there, let it fall, boom, fish on.
That right there, that tip, that bit of learning is worth every cent you paid.
Absolutely.
Just that.
Absolutely. It was so cool. And it took us, we were out there for almost 5 hours. And it took us a while to be able to see it. He'd go, oh, there's some right there. And we're like, where? Why am I not seeing what you're seeing? This guy told us he fishes 300 days a year. He said, when I go on vacation, I go fishing, right? That's it. And so I was like, well, maybe it's just because I just haven't done it enough. But he pointed it out so many times that eventually you could see it and eventually you could recognize it. You know, it's like being out in a deer blind. Like the first few times you're out there, you probably miss not shooting at, but you don't even see so many deer.
100%.
Because you don't know what a deer looks like in the woods.
Yeah.
Right? They're camouflaged.
Right. And you don't know what they sound like. You don't know what their gait sounds like.
Exactly.
You might not even know the sounds they make at all. Like
but when you're lucky enough to be sitting in that blind and you see that deer, your mind goes, okay, that's what a deer looks like in these woods.
And all of a sudden that pattern gets easier to pick out over and over.
Exactly.
That's a really good analog there.
Same thing with that water. Once he pointed it out enough times, then we were able to start spotting those and seeing those. It was pretty cool.
So, I mean, does that lead? I mean, did it work?
Yes.
And like lead to more bites?
It did, absolutely. Another thing I thought was interesting is, it's funny when people go out fishing, they think, well, I'm going to chuck this lure in the water and the fish is going to want it and they're going to eat it, right? Well, I'm going to laugh as I say it, but you're not eating all day long, right? As I say to two people that basically eat all day long. But most people don't eat all day long. You've got specific feeding times.
Sure.
Right? You've got breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Fish are the same way. They're not just eating all day, every day.
Yeah, and I really do. I'm the same way. I tend to think that way. Like, if I put food in front of a fish, it'll eat it.
Right. And that's not the case. He would point to a big chunk of nervous water and he'd go, look at that over there. See how big that is? That's probably 100 fish.
All right.
Oh my God. Yeah, let's reel them in. He goes, maybe 5 of them are eating right now. So put yourself in a room with 100 people and get 5 people to the buffet, right? You got to fight your way across the room to get to that if it's your feeding time, right? So that was really fascinating to me as well, because there were times that we'd chunk into that nervous water and nothing. You'd reel in a bunch of grass. So that was fascinating. But I did get one redfish, and it was really cool to catch the redfish in addition to the drum. The redfish fought so much harder.
Really?
So much harder. It was a completely different reel in.
I mean, was he a bigger boy? I mean,
he wasn't that much bigger than the drum. I mean, we caught a lot of good sized drum, and I mean, he was maybe a couple inches longer, but he wasn't that much bigger than all the drum we caught. It was just fascinating that it's just a different species of fish. It's just stronger.
That's
it
crazy.
Just fights harder.
Huh.
And that's why they're a desirable fish to go after.
Because it's fun.
It's fun to catch.
And they're good to eat.
They're delicious.
Yeah.
But I know guys who fly fish for redfish with no intention to keep them. They're catch and release.
I'll never understand that for the life of me. Never. I'll never. Back to the eating all day thing.
Yeah.
Like if I've caught it and I can
well,
eat
and
it.
you can with redfish you can only keep 3 down at the coast, and they have to be within a certain measurement.
Okay.
As well. So if you're below or above that measurement, you got to get rid of it anyway. So sometimes, and our friend Daniel,
yes.
He'll go out there, and if he gets 3 fish that are in the slot that are the right size, he'll keep those, but he'll keep fishing, and catch and release those redfish if he can, just because they are so much fun to fish. And then the next step would be get out in some shallow water with a fly rod, and try to catch those redfish on the fly. That's supposed to be like the best.
Yeah.
As far as Texas Gulf Coast fishing goes.
You're literally in the ocean, pulling fish out of it.
Yeah, and that is sight fishing. You're in 6 inches of water looking for their tails to come up out of the water.
Man.
And then you chuck and try to get them. But our guided trip was a success. We went to he took us to one spot and we caught all our fish. Wow. Right there. We almost limited out, which was super cool. To get that many fish. I mean, we brought back 50 pounds of fish.
That's awesome.
Between 4 guys. And when we took it to the, up there to the, what's the word I'm trying to think of? I don't know, the place where they clean the fish. They do that all for you, which is kind of nice when you've got 16 fish.
It is,
to have a professional do it for you. But, we told him, hey, we got 50 pounds. And he's like, wow, you guys had a great day. So we were pretty excited to hear that.
Yeah, that it's not common. That you actually, what's
that we
success?
got that much.
So what's sitting in your freezer now?
Drum.
Nice.
I actually returned from that trip.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a big womp womp to find that the freaking GFI thing on my outlet that my chest freezer's plugged into had popped.
We didn't talk about this
while
yet,
we
did
were gone.
We
have not. I've been trying not to talk about it.
I know. I'm sorry to bring all these.
But I returned to find all my venison from last year, all the burger we'd made, all the breakfast sausage we'd made, all the extra venison that was going to be turned into more tasty treats and jerky, all at room temperature. In addition to just a bunch of random groceries that we had bought, and a lot of proteins that we had stored in there, all at room temperature and totally lost.
Moment of silence, please. Oh man, that's rough.
It was really hard. I was choked up picking that stuff out of the freezer and into the trash. But now I do have some black drum in the freezer. While we were there, we took the redfish that we caught. We cooked that on the half shell, which means you just take the fillet off the bone. You leave the skin and scales on, and you just cook it scale side down on the grill, and it cooks from the bottom up all the way through.
It's delicious.
I made like a jalapeno lime vinaigrette that we served that with. So that was super fresh.
See, not a lot of fishing buddies have that in their back pocket. You do have that in your back pocket. Like, hey, y'all want to taste something?
Yeah.
You got that going for you.
So that was cool. And then we took a lot of the drum and we fried it up. We had them leave the ribs on because they said when you take out the ribs, you lose like 20% of the fillet. So we had them leave the ribs on. And then we took the ribs off ourselves. And all that drum, we breaded in cornmeal with some blackened seasoning and fried it. We even fried the ribs as well, and just kind of ate those by themselves. That was kind of neat, just to eat the meat right off. I mean, it's obviously not like you're not eating individual ribs.
Right.
You've got the whole fish rib cage, and you're picking the meat off of it. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. With some homemade remoulade. Man. Really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice. So I've got some of those drum fillets in the freezer, so I can get into those and enjoy those a few different ways, which is exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am still pretty broken up about that freezer failure.
That's what you should be. So going back to the coast, are you going to get guided again, or are you think you're going to give it a shot another way?
Well, I don't have a boat. So bank fishing at the coast, you can do it.
Sure.
It requires a lot more research and a lot more knowledge of
But you have something better than a boat. You have friends with boats.
A couple. Yeah. The trick is getting those invites
Yeah.
down there to do that.
Subtle.
So, but I'm definitely open to more guided trips. I want to learn as much as I can. And if you can find those guides that will teach you how to do stuff, you can up your own skills instead of just going out there and guessing or going out there and doing the same thing you did before just because that's what you did before.
Right.
If you can go out with different guides, learn different things, take the good, leave the bad, and increase your skills.
I'm all about paying for people's knowledge and talent.
Exactly. That's I don't think of it as I'm paying somebody to catch fish for me. I'm going for the learning experience. I'm learning what spots to go at what times a day, at what times a year. Right? I might be dropping GPS pins on my Google Maps while I'm out in a boat.
Sure.
I'm learning what bait to throw at what kind of fish, at what kind of time of day, at what time of year, in what spots, right? You're learning you got to be, if you're paying attention, right, and soaking up this information, then you are becoming a better angler for down the road when you do get a boat and you can take yourself out and take your kids out and take your friends out.
Right, and this is the thing you care about and the thing you want to get good at. So what better way to spend your money and time than with somebody who's better?
Exactly.
And I have no expectation that somebody who's put 300 days a year into fishing should do it for me for free. I'm not going to come with my hand out.
Absolutely not.
That comes with a cost. If if you're good at something, never do it for free. And I think those guys, if somebody wants to, we try to give out free advice, but our advice is about worth free. That's about the dollar sign on it. But if somebody wants to, they want to give it out for free, that's fine. But if they also want to charge for their services, I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, it's being coached. It's like
100%.
hiring a professional coach to teach you how to do something.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we should hire a professional coach to keep us on time for podcasts because we run a little long on this one. But no, man, that is pretty exciting stuff. So looking forward to the next trip to the coast, if not being on it, at least hearing about it.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll talk to you all next time.
Bye.